We are back after the lunch break. When we broke, Dr. Harvey had completed his direct rebuttal and surrebuttal testimony. We'll now invite cross-examination from the parties and then the commissioners. Let's start with Mr. Tucker. Mr. Tucker?
Good afternoon. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Aaron Tucker, on behalf of OCC. Good afternoon, Dr. Harvey. How are you?
Good afternoon.
Good. Dr. Harvey, your background is primarily academic, but you did have a 5-year engagement with C12 Energy, a CCS company, correct?
Right.
And what were the years of your engagement with C12?
So I think it's something that I talked about with the founders. Seem to have frozen, but you guys can hear me, right? I don't really remember we first started talking about it, but it existed certainly from 2008. And I was actively engaged until, I don't know, 2013 or so. And it may still exist. I'm not really sure. It became an enhanced oil recovery company. And at that point, myself and the founders kind of lost interest in it.
And what was your role exactly with C12 Energy?
Well, I wasn't I certainly kept my job as a professor at MIT. So I wasn't, in any way a full-time employee, but I was a consultant and spent a lot of time at their offices working with them.
Thank you. And Dr. Harvey, it looks like I lost your video. Are you able to go back on video?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Great. I can see you again. Did C12 Energy ever apply for any Class 6 permits?
Well, it was around the time I was there that the rules were being written for Class 6 permits. So we were engaged in public comment on writing the rules themselves. But I honestly don't remember whether we got an application in before we left the company.
Okay, you're not sure if C12 ever submitted an application for a Class 6 permit?
I'm not completely sure, no.
Okay, but you never assisted C12 with the preparation of a Class 6 permit. Is that correct?
Not with submitting one, but certainly assisted a lot with all of the calculations and design and planning that go into a Class 6 permit. But my role was more on the technical and scientific side of it.
Okay, thank you. I think I heard you mentioned that C12 shifted to enhanced oil recovery. Did C12 ever apply for any Class 2 UIC permits?
That would have been after, that's the time when I would have left.
Okay, and so
Yeah.
did you ever assist with the preparation of any Class 2 UIC permits? Okay. What are you familiar with what states C12 was submitted permits to?
Well, like I just said, I'm not quite sure whether we actually submitted a permit, but we were active in a number of states. One was Illinois, actually, where we were involved also actually in setting their rules about unitization. And then we had mineral rights in several other places. And I don't recall this much later which states we'd actually purchased mineral rights in, but Illinois for sure.
Okay, thank you. Have you ever worked on preparing a Class 6 permit application for any project?
Not outside of C12, no.
Okay, thank you. And have you ever served as a consultant reviewer or technical advisor to a state or federal agency evaluating a Class 6 permit application?
No.
And what is your firsthand professional experience with the geology of New Mexico?
I have no firsthand experience with the geology of New Mexico.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Harvey, many of the articles you published on CCS argue against federal subsidies for carbon capture and storage, correct?
The recent ones, yes.
Okay. The Class 6 rules don't address federal subsidies or tax credits, correct?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I think, yes, that's correct. They don't address it as far as I know.
Okay. Dr. Harvey, in preparation of your testimony, did you review the 2010 Federal Register notice for the final Class 6 rule?
The 2010, I did not review that.
Okay.
I think I've seen it over a decade ago.
But it sounds like you're familiar with that. I think you may have mentioned that you were involved with C12 during kind of the development of those rules.
Yes.
Did C12 submit any comments on
Yeah,
the
I'm
Class
sure we
6
did.
rules? Okay.
Yeah.
You would agree that the preamble to the final rules reflects EPA's reasoning in adopting the Class 6 well rules, correct?
I'd have to read it. I haven't seen it in a long time.
But are you generally familiar with the federal rulemaking process?
I'd have to say no. My expertise is really in the engineering and technical side.
So you're not aware that when, or are you aware that when EPA or another agency finalizes its rules, they publish that rule and an explanation in the Federal Register?
That sounds reasonable. I certainly wouldn't argue with that, but if you had asked me, I probably wouldn't have come out with that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'd like to move on to some of your specific proposals, if I may. You propose an expanded area of review based on the pressure front, correct?
Yes, expanded from the area review that's based on just the pure phase CO2 prediction.
And in your testimony on page 9, you note that the pressure front extending up to 100 kilometers from an injection site, correct?
Actually, I don't recall what injection site, what the context of 100 kilometers is.
So do you have a copy of your testimony in front of you?
I do, yeah.
Okay.
Take me a minute. Okay, page 9, you said?
Yeah, page 9 of your direct testimony. I'm looking at kind of starting at line 3. This appears to be Bates number 098, just if that's easier to find.
Okay.
And let me know when you've found where I'm at.
Yeah, I found it.
Okay. So on beginning at line 3, you say the increased pressure zone is almost always substantially larger than the CO2 plume zone. and then go on to say that a CO2 plume with linear dimensions of approximately 10 kilometers can generate a 0.1 MPa pressure front extending more than 100 kilometers, correct?
Yep.
Are you talking about a pressure front of 100? Is that a radius or a diameter?
Radius.
Okay. So based on a radius of a pressure front extending 100 kilometers, we're talking about an area of review potentially exceeding 30,000 kilometers. Is that right? Square kilometers?
Well, I'm not sure if that would define the area of review, whether that is a sufficient increase in pressure to delineate the area of review, right? That depends on whether it creates an upward gradient through the confining layer. The main point, sort of fundamental point here, is that when you inject water into an aquifer, just kind of a mathematical thing in a confined formation like this, pressures change everywhere. But the pressure increase falls off dramatically away from the injection well. So depending on how much you're injecting, depending on what the elastic storage parameters are of the formation, and depending at what period of time, how far in the future you look after injecting for a long time, the pressure front there is pressure change everywhere. That's not depending, that's just a fact. What's depending is how large it is at which radius, at which time.
I heard you talk about the sufficiency. You're talking about the sufficiency to endanger an underground source of drinking water. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Whether
you're not
the pressure, the increased pressure is sufficiently large to endanger the overlying drinking water aquifer.
So just to be clear, you're not advocating for an area review based simply on the pressure front, correct?
Well, the pressure front is absolutely key to it. You want to find out how far away from the well, and it's not circular in a real formation because there's all kinds of things going on. You want to define it by where the pressures are sufficiently large to drive flow into the overlying drinking water aquifer.
But just to be clear, that's different than how far the pressure front can make a
Right.
change in. Okay.
Right. And I'm kind of making a somewhat, academic point that the pressure change itself goes very, to the edge of the formation.
And conservation groups are not proposing an area review based just on a pressure change, correct?
Not just on that, no,
Okay.
but that's a key component of it.
I think, just want to be clear here, you're requiring some sufficiency, right? There needs to be a sufficient change.
Yeah, I don't think that's in I think that's in the existing, it's in existing regulations.
Okay, thank you. Would you also propose automatic triggers for area of review reevaluation, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Would automatic triggers for AOR reevaluation apply uniformly to every Class 6 project in New Mexico, regardless of site-specific characterizations?
So we're advocating for a floor on these, but I believe that New Mexico the proposal is to have the flexibility to have thresholds that are larger than the floor.
But those floors you're proposing would apply to all sites regardless of site-specific geology, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Dr. Harvey, isn't it true that EPA in finalizing the federal Class 6 rules expressly considered and rejected commenters' requests that the agency establish specific triggers in the rules that would apply to all
I don't know.
sites?
As I said, I really don't know the history or the regulatory language. I'd have to go back and look at it.
Okay, so you're not familiar if whether EPA considered those type of proposals.
I'm not sure. No.
Okay. And you're not sure if EPA responded to those concerns in its final register notice?
I really don't remember the final register notice.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Harvey, you also propose requiring evaluation of all pressure and chemical interactions with all other operational or historic injection projects within a 10-mile radius, correct?
I would support that. I'm not sure that's exactly what the language is.
Objection, Ms. Go ahead.
Objection misstates testimony. I believe that was Center for Biological Diversity's proposal.
And we would ask that Mr. Tucker point to specific rule provisions just so that Mr. Harvey can know what he's supposed to be responding to.
Yeah, sure. Just one moment. So, Dr. Harvey, I'd like you to turn to page 57 of your testimony. This is Bates CG 146. Let me know when you're there.
Okay, I'm on page 57.
Okay, and do you see the rule proposal starting at line 5 that would require the applicant to consider pressure and chemical interactions with all other operational or historic injection projects within a 10-mile radius?
I do, yeah.
Okay, so let me ask the question again. Are the conservation groups proposing that applicants consider pressure and chemical interactions with all other operational or historical injection projects within a 10-mile radius?
Yeah.
Okay. And this 10-mile figure applies as a fixed uniform distance regardless of the specific geology of the project, correct?
Well, I think if there's a good reason to believe that another injection well that's further away than 10 miles, I believe that the regulators have the discretion to include that. So
Sorry,
it's
would you
not
mind?
fixed to 10. It's more of a floor.
But all sites would be required to conduct this evaluation covering the 10-mile radius, regardless of the size of the area review, correct?
Yes, yeah, you definitely want, if you have wells that are that nearby, you want to evaluate how they would be affected by your injection well.
And the 10-mile figure applies regardless of the site-specific geology, correct?
You need to evaluate it. It'll affect your results for sure.
But it doesn't affect the radius of the review, correct?
Right, the proposal here is to make that a minimum.
Okay, and so that review based on a radius of 10 miles, we're talking about a that's 314 square miles, correct?
Yes, you would need to look at other injection projects within that
Okay, thank you.
I mean, I trust you did the pi r squared.
Yeah,
correct?
pi r squared, right? Okay, that's what we're talking about here. Okay.
Yeah.
I'd like to move on to surface air monitoring. You propose making surface air monitoring mandatory rather than leaving it to the director's discretion, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Are-
Objection, I apologize. We would ask again for Mr. Tucker to point to specific provisions. Sorry.
Dr. Harvey, could you please turn to page 77 of your written testimony?
Okay.
And I'll ask the question again. You proposed making surface air monitoring mandatory rather than leaving it to the director's discretion, correct?
Yes.
Are you aware that EPA considered comments requesting mandatory surface air monitoring in its
I think
development
I'm
of that
vaguely
class?
aware of that. That was a long time ago, but that
Okay.
sounds reasonable.
Are you aware that EPA ultimately decided that surface air monitoring should remain at the discretion of the director rather than be a mandatory requirement?
No, like I've said before, I really would have to go back and read these old regulations.
Okay. You could please turn to page 74 of your testimony. You propose, are you there?
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. You propose requiring diagnostic fracture injection tests, correct?
I think there should be, I think that should be the case, yeah.
And the section you recommend changing 1915-43-9.K6, you propose revising that provision, which discusses a pressure fall off test, correct?
Right.
Okay. Is a DFIT test the same as a pressure fall off test?
No, it's more than a pressure fall off test. I mean, there is a pressure fall off when you do a DFIT test. And you should definitely do a pressure fall off test either way. I mean, basically that's how you interrogate the hydraulic parameters of the formation. But a DFET test also enables you to determine the fracture pressure, which is sort of the key, the key parameter that governs how fast and how much you can inject.
But just to be clear, a DFIT test is not the same as a pressure fall off test, correct?
It's more than a pressure fall off test, but it contains a pressure fall off test.
And what is your experience performing DFIT tests?
Performing them as in, what do you mean performing? Like, okay, well,
Have you ever
I
performed
have,
a DFIT test?
no, I have never gone to a well and operated the injection equipment to do that.
Have you ever supervised that test?
I've never supervised one, no.
Okay. And so we talked about how a DFIT and a pressure fall off tests are different. Can pressure fall off test be performed without fracturing the rock?
Yeah, you just don't increase the pressure enough to fracture the rock.
Okay, and a defit test requires fracturing the rock. Is that correct?
I think so. Yes,
Okay.
it does.
Can defit tests be conducted can a defit test be conducted once the wellbore has been completed?
Completed in the sense of screened and I'm not sure what you're asking there exactly.
Once the wellbore has been completed, can a defit test be performed?
Completed in the sense of having like what it can't be completed if you have something blocking flow from the wellbore into the formation.
So once you've started you've drilled the well, started in injections, can a defit test be completed?
After you start injecting CO2, I think that would probably be a bad idea for a number of reasons.
Okay, and why is that?
Well, once you start to inject CO2, you would not want to fracture the formation because that could create a pathway for the CO2. Right. The point of a defect test is to find the injection pressure and then use that to never go above it. When you're
Dr. Harvey, aren't you
CO2.
proposing that defit test be conducted every 5 years?
No.
How so?
A defect test is a site characterization test to find out what the fracture pressure is locally.
So
What I was objecting to further in this testimony is using results from a defect test that's been conducted elsewhere where the conditions might be different.
So on page 74 of your testimony, you were asked, why do you support the mandating of complete defit tests that rely on site-specific data only as shown below at 1915 43-9 case 6 NMAC? And then you have a proposed revision related to that.
Yeah.
So just to be clear, you're not advocating conducting defit tests every 5 years.
I'm not.
Okay. Thank you very much. I have no further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Tucker. Ms. Gutierrez, do you have questions of Dr. Harvey?
Good afternoon. No questions from NMOGA. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Pavlik or Mr. Cox? Not sure who's on the platform.
Hello, good afternoon. No questions for Dr. Harvey. Thank you.
I think I was, Mr. Pavlik, it was hard to hear you.
Sorry about that. No questions for Dr. Harvey. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Ruskovich-Bars? She may not be there. Mr. Tremaine, do you have questions of Dr. Harvey?
I do, thank you. Good afternoon, Dr. Harvey. My name is Jesse Tremaine. I'm the legal director for the New Mexico Oil Conservation Division. How are you this afternoon?
Good. How are you?
Good, thank you. That's been, well, I was going to say it's a long week, but it's the second week. So thank you for all of your attention and preparation for the hearing. I'd like to start by asking you some questions about your SIR rebuttal testimony. During your SIR rebuttal, Ms. O'Grady put up on a screen application materials related to the Brown Pelican. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Okay. Where is the Brown Pelican project located?
Somewhere in Texas.
Okay. The materials that were shared on screen, at what point in the permitting process did you pull those materials from?
Well, she pulled them
Okay.
to show me, but I have seen them before, and without doing a careful comparison, it seemed like the permit application was the same from either the Texas site or from the EPA site. But I did not, dig in and do like a comparison of files or anything like that. But they were similar in the sense that they had a lot of redactions.
Understood. Those redacted materials, are you able to clarify whether those redactions occurred prior to or during the public comment period related to that proposal?
I don't.
Sorry, you said, not to belabor, I didn't hear you correctly. Did you say you don't know?
I don't know. I mean,
Okay, thank you.
just seen the file as it is currently on the websites.
Understood, thank you. Are you aware, have you reviewed any injection well permit or application for permit specific to New Mexico?
No.
Okay. Are you aware of any plume models that may already be used in New Mexico?
No.
Did you, in preparing for this hearing, did you look at any records related to Class 2 wells in New Mexico?
No, I did not.
And specifically, so that would include specifically that you did not review any application or permit materials related to Class 2 acid gas injection wells?
I did not.
Okay. Are you generally aware of OCD Form C-108?
No, I'm certainly not.
Okay. Are you aware? Well, on page 4 of your testimony, you talk about relatively few carbon capture sequestration wells, and I was just asking you about acid gas injection wells, so I just want to explore your familiarity there. Do you know how many acid gas injection wells already exist in New Mexico?
I do not.
Okay. Are you aware of whether or not those acid gas injection wells can and do inject into saline aquifers?
No, but I hope they don't inject into drinking water aquifers.
Understood. Thank you. I want to follow up on this. You've talked about, generally speaking, about the different permits that you reviewed. And I'm hoping to clarify whether, similar to the Brown Pelican example, are you reviewing, when you talk about the permits you reviewed, are you reviewing materials that are part of the application prior to being made available for public comment, or are you reviewing materials that are applicable and available for public inspection once the permits are formally available for public comment?
Okay, so first, I haven't reviewed in any sort of official capacity. It's more out of curiosity. So I have downloaded them from the websites that provide them for public comment.
Thank you. I'd like to move on and refer back to your proposal related to confidential records that are already in the public record. We always ask this question. Sorry to belabor, it's obvious, but you're not an attorney, are you?
No, clearly not.
Okay. Are you aware of whether or not the term public record is defined in New Mexico statute?
I'm not.
Okay. If I told you that it has a specific definition, you would have no reason to dispute that, would you?
No, because I'm not even clear what that means.
Okay. So is it safe to say then that you did not incorporate the New Mexico definition of public records into this red line proposal?
I did not, no.
Okay. So in your testimony, I want to get to the kind of the heart of what you're proposing here. And I certainly don't want to ask you to opine on any legal significance here, but just in terms of what you are trying to get at in proposing records already in the public record. I think you provided a couple examples in your direct testimony. Can you provide some more color or description on what types of information you believe should be captured in that red line proposal?
Yeah, so most simply, I want the information that was used to construct the model, the permit application, so that I can understand how they achieved their results, their proposal. Maybe go a little bit beyond that. I would find it very useful if all of the data were there that's necessary to evaluate the safety of the project.
Dr. Harvey, on page 34 of your testimony, labeled Bates CG-123, you state confidential business information claims on information already in the public record undermine the right of New Mexicans to evaluate key public information that underpins the basis of a permit that may irreversibly affect their water resources. You go on to say that information already in the public record often includes but is not limited to earthquake data, well locations and well completion reports, geologic stratigraphic sections, defit tests, and et cetera. So specifically those areas that you outline on page 34, are you able to point to any, would you agree that those are the types of information that may appear in other permit applications or public records in New Mexico?
I think I answered before that I haven't actually reviewed an application in New Mexico.
Sorry, that wasn't very clear. I'm asking if these are the types of information, whether or not you're familiar with whether or not these categories of information are available in other public records outside a Class 6 permit application.
So you're asking sort of in general, anywhere, can this data be obtained from a public record?
Well, really, let me rephrase the question. What I'm really getting at is there is already information in the public record in various different forms in OCD permitting, et cetera. And I want to ask you if you're aware of any instance in which data such as you have outlined here has been redacted from public view in New Mexico.
Not in New Mexico, no.
Okay. Thank you. Dr. Harvey, I want to ask about third-party verifications. You're supporting an independent third-party verification of certain types of information. In the situation where there would be a required third-party verifier, who or what entity certifies that third-party verifier?
Well, I think actually, as I said, I think in the SIR rebuttal, certification would be great, but actually official certification, if it's not possible, would instead you would just choose someone who is qualified.
Okay, so do I understand? Sorry.
Well, I don't think, I mean, it sounds to me like that is something that would be the discretion of the regulator. And maybe there's arguments about what's qualified, but I think that probably some agreement could be reached on that.
Okay. Would, Dr. Harvey, would any of your concerns be addressed if you were assured that it was OCD's plan to contract with modeling experts to perform that part of the review?
Yeah, I would like them to do that.
I have a couple weedy questions here, Dr. Harvey, so bear with me. On page 10, line 17 of your direct testimony, which is marked as Conservation Groups 99, you state, if the regulations define only a single zone by which to guide regulations, operators will have an incentive to use the smaller plume-based boundary, leaving the much larger pressure zone outside the regulatory perimeter. Dr. Harvey, is there anything in the New Mexico proposed regulations that would require only a single zone?
I'd have to read the regulations, but I think the context here is that you need to have it defined by both the area of the CO2 plume and the pressure increase.
Would you agree that if New Mexico relies on the EPA guidance that both zones, pressure and plume, would be considered in AOR delineation?
Oh, I'm sorry, what's the question there?
Would you agree that if New Mexico relies on the EPA guidance that both the pressure and plume zones would be considered in AOR delineation?
I'd have to read the guidance. I hope that's the case, yes.
Okay.
I have to read it.
Similarly, on page 12, line 5 of your direct testimony, you state that if an operator delineates the AOR based primarily on the flume footprint rather than the pressure front, which is possible under Class 6 regulations because the AOR is defined only in the division's proposed regulations as the region surrounding the geologic sequestration project where USDWs may be endangered by the injection activity, the result will underestimate the area of potential endangerment. So my understanding from your testimony is that you agree that elevated pressures endanger USDWs. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. If, as you agree, the area of elevated pressure endangers USDWs, then referring back to the part of your testimony that I just referred to, how does the proposed regulatory language preclude consideration of the pressure front?
Well, I hope it doesn't. I think the point here is that it should include the pressure front.
Okay. So Dr. Harvey, I'm referring generally to page 14 of your direct testimony, but I think I believe it's a fair characterization to say that you address model uncertainty at some length. Ultimately, do you agree that computational models informed by all available data are the best available method to determine the likely plume and pressure front areas?
It's the only way to predict it into the future, but it is entirely dependent on the data that's used to construct it. And I'm not sure the context here, but it is the only way in conjunction with ongoing recalibration with data as it becomes available.
Thank you. So Dr. Harvey, you bring up the ADM, the Archer-Daniels-Midlands case in the context of AOR delineation. I'm referring to page 15 of your direct testimony. Would you agree that the monitoring well with the potential leakage was within the site's AOR defined by modeling?
Actually, I'm not quite sure, but if that could well be the case.
Okay. Do you agree that the purpose of AOR modeling is to define the area where leakage could occur?
Where leakage of CO2 could go through the overlying caprock. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Okay. So if the leakage occurred within the AOR, then in the Archer-Daniel Midlands context, the AOR was actually correct.
Yeah. If that's right. Laterally, I think maybe if I could expand a little bit on something, and
Okay.
it was in my direct. Where the models failed was in how quickly the CO2 moved upward. And that's an example of a lot, these are, it's pretty, that site has a lot of sophisticated modeling. Yet it was unable to predict the rapid movement of the CO2 upward from the injection depth.
Thank you. Dr. Harvey, on page 30 of your direct testimony, you referred to the offered amendments that you state are needed to ensure that the PISC post-injection, well, I'll say the PISC monitoring because I always get that one wrong, but the PISC monitoring does not end until plume stabilization ceases based on actual data. Are you aware that the proposed New Mexico regulations already state that, and I quote, prior to authorization for site closure, the owner or operator must submit to the director for review and approval a demonstration based on the monitoring and other site-specific data that no additional monitoring is needed to ensure that the geological sequestration project does not pose an endangerment to USDWs? Are you aware of that language?
Well, I don't remember the precise language, but
okay.
I mean, it's discussed in there for sure.
Okay, and for clarity in the record, I'm referring to proposed item 19.15.43.9 N2C. Does that language, Dr. Harvey, not address the concern that you bring up?
Well, one part of the concern is how long do you wait to establish that it's stabilized? And the language you read does not specify that, I believe.
Okay, thank you. Bear with me, Dr. Harvey. I'm looking through. You've answered some of my questions, so I'm trying to move through without repeating any of these areas. At a high level, Dr. Harvey, you reference EPA Class 6 guidance in your direct testimony. Do you agree at a high level that those guidance documents contain helpful protocols?
Again, I can't recall the language in the EPA regulations or guidance.
Okay. Dr. Harvey, can you agree that at a high level, when we're talking about a rulemaking context, it's necessary to strike a balance between prescriptive requirements and project-specific determinations?
Yeah, I agree that there should be a balance.
And in terms, do you agree that modeling methods, monitoring technology, logging technologies, that these technologies have and will likely continue to evolve over time?
Well, everything does, so hopefully they do. But right now, if a project were to commence, it should use the ones that are appropriate and best currently.
Okay, thank you. I asked you a couple questions about the ADM context, and then I believe what you said was that the model failed in predicting how quickly the CO2 moved upward. Dr. Harvey, was the transmission pathway in the ADM context was a monitoring well, correct?
I don't know. The monitoring well was degraded and measured CO2. And then it's inferred that it was a transmission pathway.
Okay, thank you. Do you agree that each injection zone monitoring well is a potential leakage pathway?
Potentially, it is if the well fails.
Okay, and so.
But let me add to that: if the well is constructed correctly, I think we can have some reasonable confidence that it won't fail. Right.
So would you agree then that when we're talking about monitoring wells and gathering data and leakage pathways, that it becomes necessary to weigh or balance the needs for data and the creation of more potential leakage pathways on a site-specific basis?
Yeah, you need to weigh it. I'm not too worried about too many monitoring wells. They're very expensive to put in. I'm more worried about an insufficient number of monitoring wells.
Okay. So, Dr. Harvey, this one is a pretty weedy one, but you on page 52 you recommend or you refer to simple scalar factor. In your expertise, your understanding, is that a commonly understood term?
So which line are you looking at?
I'm looking at page 52, line 10. It's based Conservation Groups 141, which is also page 145 of the PDF packet if you're using that.
Well, I mean, it's certainly well used in science and engineering broadly. It just means it's maybe a little too sophisticated saying it's a scalar. It's just a multiplier.
Okay. Well, the question I'm getting to is that if that is included in the regulations, if you were to define that, are you able to provide, and I recognize this is difficult on cross-examination, but what would your definition of simple scalar factor be?
Let me just take a look at language here. It would just be a multiplier.
Okay, thank you.
mean, a multiplier on the distance from the injection well.
Thank you. Dr. Harvey, and thank you moving through. I had a lot of questions for you, but you've covered some of them, so please continue to bear with me. Dr. Harvey, you reference well searches in your direct testimony, for instance, on page 62, line 7, and that's based Conservation Groups 151. And I'll paraphrase for the premise of the question here, but you rely on studies in the Illinois Basin and Pennsylvania and Oklahoma. Are you able to speak to the similarities or differences between the presence records and the depth of artificial penetrations and how they differ in the San Juan and Permian compared to those other locations that you referenced?
Yeah, I think I'd be speculating. I don't remember all the details.
Okay, thank you. On page 70, you recommend additional requirements regarding testing and monitoring. And are you, it's page 70, line 12, are you aware of the need for a quality assurance and surveillance plan for all testing and monitoring requirements in the proposed rule language at 19.15.43.8K13?
I think I'm aware of that, but again, I don't remember the specific language.
Are you generally familiar with QASP, Quality Assurance and Surveillance Plan?
In general, I think I know what that means, but specific varies from, yeah.
Okay. Would you agree that a project specific QASP would define the data requirements that you're recommending?
This is applied to which data?
I'm referring back to the additional requirements regarding testing and monitoring that you proposed on page 70. So this is, it's 163 of the PDF based CG 159.
Okay, and what's the question again?
I'm trying to get at whether or not a project-specific quality assurance and surveillance plan would define the specific data requirements that you were recommending in the proposed edit.
Whether it would, if it was written specifically to do that?
Sorry, was that a question?
Yeah. It's whether it does as written, or whether it could if it was written with this amendment in mind.
Would it be normal? Yeah, I'll try to rephrase. Would it be normal that a project-specific quality assurance and surveillance plan would address the testing and monitoring requirements that you included in this section?
Oh, okay. So I think that plan should have specific aspects for the types of data, the types of monitoring and data that is collected.
Okay. I have to direct you to page 73, line 11 of your testimony. Let's see, which is one moment, I'm verifying my line and item here. Okay, so Dr. Harvey, starting on line 11, you state that these are the right principles, but the guidance specifies no minimum, leaving data density to operator discretion. And what I'm getting at here is, will you agree that under the proposed rule, those discretionary items are director discretion, not operator discretion?
I'd really have to read the precise language of the
Okay.
rule. I know that the director has discretion.
Okay. If items such as this actually were director discretion, does that address your concern at all?
I would prefer if there is some statistical rigor that sets a floor. And, I think, in the context of monitoring, say, water chemistry, if there's a frequency that sets a floor.
Thank you. All right, I think that I am wrapping up, Dr. Harvey. Just give me 1 second to make sure that is true. And that is true. Thank you for your time. I don't have any further questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Tremaine. Commissioner Mpoma, would you like to?
Pardon me,
I forgot
Madam
to
Hearing
ask
Officer.
about redirect. Yes, very sorry.
I just have a few quick questions. Dr. Harvey, do you need to have an in-depth knowledge of the geology of New Mexico to have relevant expertise in the science behind Class 6 injections?
No, you do not. And the examples that I refer to are from all over the world, and the sort of lessons of those examples will apply in New Mexico as they would in anywhere else.
Although you discuss the importance of DFIT tests in the context of pressure fall-off tests, just to clarify, conservation groups' red lines do not explicitly require a DFIT every 5 years or otherwise.
Yeah, that we just read that, and that looks like that's right. Yeah.
Did you state that the Class 6 project documents you've reviewed have been downloaded from the website where those documents are provided to the public during the public comment period and after?
I'm pretty sure. I've never had any access that the public wouldn't have.
And Mr. Tremaine stated that EPA guidance recommends modeling the AOR on both plume and increased pressure. If EPA guidance is not binding, would an operator be required to incorporate both the plume and increased pressure?
I think that's my understanding of how these regulations work, that if it's EPA guidance, you don't have to do it. Right?
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
I have no further questions. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Mpoma, would you like to begin the questioning? We'll need to take a break in about 20 minutes or so.
I promise I'll be fast today. Okay. Yeah, thank you so much, Professor Harvey, for your testimony to support this application to make it much better. So I do appreciate your testimony to us. Now, I'll go through the rule with the red lines, and some of it has already been covered, so I will not really spend time on those. So I'll be moving through that quickly. Now, but let me first ask about the third-party verification of the modeling. Now, a quick question that I have for you is, who has the final determination when there is a disagreement between a third party, the operator, and then also the regulator?
I think that's a good question. Can I answer that by saying that that's what I would hope those writing the regulations can, cover, can specify. I don't know how best to write the regulations to do that, but I understand that you need some mechanisms for that.
Now, so with that, when you say that we should make it more of a mandatory part of the rulemaking, don't you believe that it could probably substantially delay permitting without materially improving the technical quality of the application?
Well, I think my motivation for it is to prevent bad models from getting through. So I'm concerned more with if you don't do this, you can end up with bad outcomes, with areas of review that are too small, and in the worst case, with CO2 escaping all the way to the surface.
Yeah, I don't want to go much deeper on this with you, but I would have done so if you have experience in reviewing some of these EPA applications. Yeah, because if you review, okay, go ahead.
Well, I think, okay, I see where you're going. Yeah, so, again, I haven't reviewed these things in official capacity, but I can say the ones I've looked at, I could not review. There's just not enough information there. And it is, you're right, it's a lot of work. I'm not going to do that unless I were sort of employed as an outside expert.
Now, just to give you a fair idea, to get your thoughts with regards to the rigorosity of the reviewing process. So the example that you showed, that your council showed, there we will see a lot of reductions in there. I don't know if you can cross-check that to see the number of revisions that particular application has gone through. If I recall correctly, I saw number 3. I don't know if you can confirm that.
Nope, I just downloaded earlier before they showed it to me. I did take a look at it, and I downloaded it from both the EPA and the Texas site, the permit application.
Yeah, so if you have a copy of it, look at the header and see the revision. You will see that if what I saw is correct, that it has undergone revisions, and that will be the third one that you showed us.
Okay, yeah, that could be the case.
Now, I asked you a question with regards to who has the final determination as to whether, when there is a disagreement between, let's say, parties that are reviewing the applications. Do you know that in the current rule, it will be the director who has the ultimate deciding power to say this is what we are going for?
Do I know if that's in the current rule? No, as I said, I do not have all of these rules at my fingertips, but that sounds reasonable.
Okay. Yeah, let's go through the rule, and I'm looking at CG on page CG017. And this will be 1915.42 and MAC. So I'm looking at the binder, CG017. Now, let me know. Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry, is that in my direct testimony? No.
This one is going to be in your in the packet that we have.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this will be the
Okay.
rule itself.
I got it.
Exhibit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
This will be Exhibit 1A, I believe. Yeah. So I'm looking at the transitioning from class 2 to class 6. That will be the last sentences there on that page.
Okay.
Now, you've made some edits here, but I just want to ask, with or without your edits, do you believe that your intent is still captured in this provision?
Um, yeah, I think I see what you're asking. I'm having to read it sort of, ignoring the red and read it with just the black. It's pretty similar both ways.
Okay. And that's what I thought too. So thank you. If we flip to the next page, that would be CG 018. And you are proposing that we do add additional statement in there. That would be F, integrity of the caprock seal for long-term contamination.
Mm-hmm.
And I must say that OCD more or less agrees with you on this one. But my question to you is, how would this be quantified?
Well, the main method that I'm proposing is that you do quantitative models of how faults in the particular geometry at your site respond to increased pressures. So it's not a question so much of whether the caprock has integrity before you inject. The question is, how does it behave after you've perturbed the system by injecting?
Yeah, so if you look at that provision, the whole number 2 provision, it's more or less giving some guidance to the director to make a decision as to whether a class 2 now needs to apply for a class 6. So these are provisions that the director has to use that as a guidance to make that determination. So I'm still trying to figure out how the director is going to more or less make a determination whether a reservoir that has undergone pressure maintenance, how he's going to more or less, the director is going to more or less evaluate the integrity of the caprock without the applicant going through the class 6 application process.
Yeah, I think so. The answer I just gave was sort of a more broad, like how do you interrogate the integrity of a caprock in general. For the transition, I agree. If it's a wastewater injection well, then it has not been evaluated for buoyant CO2 coming into it. And I don't see any way that isn't just basically the same as creating a class 6 well, and so should be evaluated that way. If it's an EOR injection well, there already is presumably an intact caprock. That's why there's oil and gas there. But the conditions could change a lot. So you need to evaluate under the changed conditions, which would typically be increase in pressures beyond what the oil reservoir has ever seen, because you're not pumping oil out anymore, you're just injecting CO2. Oh, also, it could spread much further, right? Because instead of drawing the injected CO2 towards your production well, it could go in other directions once the production wells are no longer turned on.
So you made a good point, or at least you made a point about the director can use the changes in the reservoir pressure to make that determination, right? But so that one is captured under A. I'm still trying to figure out, without going through the application process, how the director is going to be able to more or less assess the integrity of the caprock. I'm
Yeah.
still trying to figure that one out.
Yeah. I mean, the answer I just gave is that going through the application process would be the straightforward way to do it.
Exactly. So, but you see, if you look at that number 2, it is the point for the director to make the decision to go to ask for a class 6. So at that point, they don't have the information. The director doesn't have the information. So you see why I feel like probably this will be something that the director cannot really achieve if we leave that in the rule.
I agree with you, and I could even maybe support what you're saying, is that if you turn the question around and say, under what transition, in what circumstances, would the director look at it and say, oh, that's fine? I'm hard pressed to come up with what that would be.
Yeah, so you see that it's not a clear-cut provision for the director to really follow compared to all the other ones. Those ones are really easy for the director to really even make that determination. So even though I would be
happy. My opinion is if you could simplify the whole thing and say you have to do a class 6 application.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Let's go to Exhibit 1C. Do we need to take a break or?
Whenever this is fine.
Okay. Sure. Just let me know. Okay. Thank you. Let's go to Exhibit 1C of your testimony. So this will be, but I want to start with CG 031, page 31, and that will be page 4 of the rule. So you
okay? Oh, I'm
you
sorry.
Are there?
No, I'm not. What? Could you give me the address of it again?
CG 031.
Yeah, okay. Yep.
Yeah. So I'm looking at section 9, paragraph 9, where you are defining intensive corrective action area. So my first question on this is this a typical terminology that is really used in class 6 or even subsurface modeling?
So the technology or the definition of the term?
The definition of the term.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I don't know if it's in other states' regulations.
Have you seen any of the states that do have primacy now incorporating this definition in their rule?
No, and I'm sorry, I have not read the regulations of all the states in the EPA.
And this is, so how did you come up with that definition though?
Well, it's the area above which pure phase CO2 could move straight upwards.
And is that not captured in the AOR?
Yeah, it's the one part of the AOR.
So my question to you is, the AOR captures that. So if we take out this definition, if let's say the commission decide not to adapt this definition, it is still some way, somehow captured under the AOR. Would you agree with me on that?
Yeah, if you write the language so that it's consistent across both. I mean, I think sort of obviously, anything you call intensive correction action should be within the AOR.
Okay. Now, with regards to the plume stabilization, so that one too, don't you believe that that one too is captured as part of the AOR?
No, because it's the question, plume stabilization describes when the plume has stopped moving.
So what type of plume are you referring to? Is it the pressure plume or the CO2 plume?
It's the CO2 plume. The pressure plume or pressure field is presumably decaying after you stop injecting, but the plume can still migrate somewhere else.
Now, is it your testimony that, let's say, we have to account for the plume stabilization as part of the PISC?
I think that's right in that you want to confirm that the plume is stabilized before you make any decisions on how to monitor, post injection.
Now, would you agree with me that in most instances, your pressure front will be more or less at a distance compared to that of the CO2 plume?
No, I think it extends further. The CO2 is displacing water, right? And so it necessarily increases the pressure of the water it's displacing.
So definitely the pressure front is going to be much bigger compared to that of the CO2 footprint.
Right, yeah.
So now in a PISC, the current rule, or even the normal way we look at Class 6 applications, don't you believe that that is the reason why the pressure, depending on how you define the AOR, that becomes the centerpiece as to when, or let's say that becomes the centerpiece of the PISC?
What becomes the centerpiece? The pressure front?
How you define the AOR, either pressure or let's say the plume, it becomes the central piece of the PISC.
Yes, I mean, you need to define the area over which you're still concerned, or over which it's plausible that that the overlying aquifer will be contaminated, or that CO2 will escape all the way.
Let's go to CG 032, so that would just be the next page. Give me a second. Now, so here you are adding some languages, just a clarification language to, let's say CII and then CV. Now, my question is, will this provision still be understood without the additions?
Yeah, I think under II, under 2, the addition there is whether the increased pressure causes fractures to slip or open, changes the geomechanics.
Yeah, but my concern there is the term under anticipated changes.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain that a little bit more?
Well, the only way that we predict changes is through the modeling. And so the question is, under the anticipated changes, the ones that we predict with the model, would these fractures slip or open? Would something mechanically happen to the cap rock?
Let's go to page CG 034. Now, so I'm looking at 3A, and I want you to read through that carefully, the suggested language that you are putting across. I want you to review that carefully. And my question to you will be, is injection into USDW accepted under the proposed rule?
Okay. Well, I hope not. I think what we're talking about there is injection into the injection formation.
Yeah, so if you read through the last part, you're saying that calculate the area over which induced pressure differentials could drive movement of formation fluids. And then you bring in all injected fluids into the USDW. So are you inferring that it is moving from the injected zone or directly into the USDW?
No, it would be moving from the injected zone.
Okay. Now, so if we go to the II, just beneath that, you are proposing something here that I really need some more explanation on. So here you are saying that based on detailed geologic data collected from at least 3 wells.
Yeah.
Do you believe that 3 wells is enough to characterize a storage complex?
No, I would want more. This is setting it as a floor. It certainly would be in conjunction with seismic data.
So then this brings an important question that Mr. Sherman asked you about your familiarity with the San Juan Basin and then the Permian Basin. Do you believe that an operator will use only 3 wells in the San Juan Basin or the Permian Basin to do a full characterization of a storage complex?
Well, you'd have to tell me what storage complexes have been fully characterized. In oil reservoirs, there are a lot more wells than that.
Then I would define the storage complex as the confining zone, the injection zone, and then the confining zone beneath the injection zone.
Okay, but I think your question sort of assumes that this has been done enough to say something like, typically you need more than 3 wells. I'm not aware of these characterizations for geologic storage.
Now,
Other
this will
than
be
the permits, the permit we just looked at.
I mean, this will be because if the commission is to adapt your language here, this will be something that I would say I definitely need someone with experience in the San Juan Basin or the Permian Basin to really put this up. I mean, if I ask you, do you know how many wells?
Right. So
okay.
This is the floor. If you get a good geologic advice on a particular site, you might find that the structure there is complex enough and the heterogeneity and hydraulic parameters is strong enough that you conclude 3 wells isn't nearly enough.
So then you agree with me that we do not necessarily have to be clear explicitly saying that at least you have to use 3 wells because it's going to be basin site specific. Would you agree with me?
The one disagreement I'd have is I'd hate to see it be 1 well or 2 wells because I can't imagine a place where that's sufficient.
Well, so that is why I was saying that if you have a lot of experience in the San Juan or the Permian, probably this would be a different suggestion to the commission, because if you look at the San Juan, for instance, I mean, you do have saltwater injection wells already drilled into the potential formation that could be utilized for.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly. So you
Yeah,
get
yeah.
my
So
point.
you could use existing wells and not have to install so many new wells if the existing wells are sufficient.
Then let me flip the question. Were you inferring that we should drill 3 stratigraphic wells at least to be sufficient to characterize a storage complex?
I think that's right. And if you want to use existing wells, you have the problem of making them resistive to CO2.
Okay, I get your point now. Okay.
Good time.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Let's take an afternoon break and return at 2:15. Let's come back from the break, please. Commissioner Mpoma, do you have additional questions?
Yes, I do. And Professor Harvey, thanks so much and welcome back. So we are on page CG 035.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I just want to know a little bit more about the simple scalar factor. Now, so I'm looking at the top, number 3, I. Now, my question to you is, who determines this? And from your experience, how is OCD going to verify the scalar factor?
Well, the scalar factor shouldn't be 1. So, it's a way of specifying a margin for safety, which I think clearly has to be done. I'm not sure I'm in the position to tell the regulators exactly how to do that. And I don't believe in here we specify a particular number. Let me just say it needs to be a good deal greater than 1.
Yeah, but so I thought you've done the research. You are proposing that the commission adapt that. And as a commissioner, before I can concur with you, I need to know the uncertainties that will be associated with that number. So it sounds to me that probably it's more appropriate to get into a guidance than a rule.
Well, I would like to see a floor on it. And you said uncertainties on that number. I mean, the number is in part meant to capture the uncertainties in the AOR. So 1 would be a bad number, implying that there are no uncertainties. It's a hard question, and I'm not going to tell you it needs to be 2 or 2.5. Yeah.
Yeah, so without a certainty on that factor, then don't you believe it can more or less go into a guidance, than more of a rule?
Yeah, I mean, you could get very complex about this. You could try and assess the uncertainty in the AOR modeling from each site and base it as a factor on the variance of the plume perimeter, that kind of thing.
Sheila, if I may worry you a little bit, can you pull up my recommended suggested changes so that Professor Harvey can review that?
Oh, okay, good.
And see if he concurs with that, or at least if that will address some of the concerns that he has. Now, whilst we are waiting for that, I do have 2 more questions on this same page for you. So in your C, so that will still be on CG035. C, I'm looking at it from the top. You are suggesting some databases that operators would have to search. Is that correct? The new C.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So my question to you is, do you have a fair idea as to the current databases that are normally used in New Mexico, at least when an operator is applying for a permit?
I don't think I know any more about what's in New Mexico than the regulators probably know.
So what that probably means is that what you are providing to the commission for us to adapt is not probably exhaustive enough. Would you agree with that?
Yes. I think you should use all possible databases for abandoned wells.
And OCD do know the databases that are available and acceptable. So don't you believe that we should leave it as a discretion of the director?
Maybe specify all appropriate all databases of abandoned wells.
Thank you. And the last one will be, so I'm looking at the number 5, the reevaluation. So you are putting some metrics here. And I just want to ask you, are you familiar with the seismicity protocols that has been established for the state of New Mexico?
No, I don't know what the quantities are.
Without knowing that, and you did not cross-check that, so would you believe that it could be in conflict with what you are proposing?
That without knowing that, could it be in conflict? Yeah, I'm not sure I can answer that.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So, Professor Harvey, I want you to go through, so on the screen, these are, I've read through the rules, and these are some suggested changes that I would like to be implemented in the rule, at least as a suggestion for the applicant to more or less consider. So I just want you to review number 3 and then number 4. So if you can scroll down, yeah. So number 3 and then number 4, specifically to the AOR.
Okay. Give me a minute to read it.
Sure.
Okay. 3 seems reasonable. So 4, and I don't know if it feels like I'm sort of throwing it back on you, but that is a tough thing, right? And when I'm reading that, I can imagine reading it from 2 different points of view. One is that if I'm genuinely interested in understanding all the uncertainty, the sort of universe of possible plume pathways and pressure distributions, I agree with everything in there. If I put on a sort of different hat and think that what I want to do is get a permit approved, I also might like this because there aren't actual sort of specifications and floors on how much variability or uncertainty you put into your uncertainty calculations. So maybe be a little more precise about that. So it doesn't ask, for instance, to run your model with possible configurations of fractures and faults, or over what range of permeability or even capillary parameters or something like that. So I don't know how regulations work to make that tighter, but it alarms me in that I do know that if you want to achieve model outputs in a statistical sense that are make a sort of predefined point, there are a lot of ways to choose what you vary over what ranges and what scenarios that you simulate. So I think that's a frustrating answer, but it worries me.
So if we go back to CG 034 under 3I, you are very clear, specifying the type of mosaics that you really want to be assessed. So in there, you're saying use an ensemble approach that considers the full range of realistic variation in an interaction among key parameters. And you listed some of it, including permeability field parameters, KV, KH, ratio, porosity, relative perm caps, and hysteresis. Don't you believe that covers in my number 4 VII that I'm proposing, and even VII?
Yeah, it's a step in the right direction, but I guess I didn't understand this presupposes that's already in there.
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah. But, if this were included along with number 4 here, that does push it in the right direction.
Okay. So let's get back to your testimony. So let's look at CG 042. Thank you, Sheila. So in there, I'm looking at number 4, J4. J4. So you're saying that the owner or operator must run a casing inspection log monthly to
So
evaluate the,
I'm sorry. Oh, CG, my testimony, CG.
042 page, yeah, CG 042, and I'm looking at J.
Okay, my testimony starts on CG 090.
Now I'm looking at the actual rule itself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yes. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, so is it your testimony that you require the case in the MIT, the integrity test to be done on a monthly basis?
So hold, where am I? Yep. Yeah. That's correct. Yeah.
That's a little bit interesting though, because my question to you is, have you evaluated the operational risk associated with repeatedly pulling tubing to conduct these monthly casing inspections?
Right. That's a good question. And I suspect you may know more about that than me.
So even though it is making the rules stricter, but the question is the operational logistics. Can we really make this work?
Well, and are you in danger of damaging the well by doing this too often? I think.
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't know the answer to that. I don't have familiarity with, what the odds are of damage and, whether it accumulates or I don't know if that's something that petroleum engineers presumably have studied. I don't know.
So then are you more or less now flexible about the monthly to more or less still keep the language that that was already there?
Yeah, I'm flexible if there's a sound argument that it's damaging to do it too often and there's no way to avoid that.
Okay, I appreciate that. So let's get to CG 043. So that will be the next page. And I'm not going to ask you about the testing because, I mean, it has been discussed extensively. But I want to go to 4B. I want to go to 4B on CG 043. Yeah. So you want a minimum of 4 monitoring wells. A minimum of, no fewer than 4 monitoring wells. And without the knowledge about the geology in New Mexico, mostly San Juan and Permian, my question will be, how did you determine this?
So, can I ask this? Are you concerned that the geology in New Mexico is so homogeneous that you don't need very many wells?
Okay, so we can I'm not saying you don't need many wells, but I believe that it has to be site specific and not necessarily we saying it has to be at least 4 wells. Because I don't, because of time, I do not want to really go much into detail with regards to, let's say, now if you look at if you take the San Juan Basin as an example,
Yeah.
there is a preferential flow direction.
Yeah.
There is a preferential flow direction. And I believe that before you can set a monitoring well, you want to know that direction. And through that, then it can also give you a fair idea as to where to place your monitoring well. Will you agree with me on that?
Well, maybe you get a little long-winded about it. How do you know that flow direction?
Because I've done
you
the
need-
research. I've done the research. I've done.
So you're
that's why
confident
I do
from
not.
existing wells, you know it. So you don't need to put in wells to determine that. If that's the case, I'm not sure that actually helps you. So if these are wells in the drinking water aquifer, what you're looking for is changes in water chemistry there, right? That is not going to, those changes, if there is a leak, aren't going to be homogeneous. They're going to be caused by, a leak of CO2 or brine with CO2 into the drinking water aquifer. Then you have, what are the odds of finding that? The more wells, the better. From your question, I suppose you could make an argument that you put your wells more downstream than upstream. I could see that kind of thinking. But having worked on a lot of groundwater contamination sites, 4 wells is absurdly small, right? No one goes and characterizes groundwater contamination with only 4 points. So I still think it's a floor, but I'm open to the floor it's the first floor and we need a 3rd floor on this or something.
And are these monitoring wells needs to penetrate the injection zones?
Yeah, so the example I just gave is that they're in the drinking water aquifer. And I think we talked before about 3 wells penetrating the injection zone. I'm open to, I don't know whether there's some combination where you do both with the same well. I kind of doubt it, but maybe there is. Yeah, I don't know if that's answering your question, but I do think because you're looking for plumes, well, I don't want to set the floor any lower on anything.
Yeah, and once the plume gets to these monitoring wells, what next? I'm looking at it from the risk point of view.
Yeah.
Having many penetrations into your injection zone where these wells are just only for monitoring purposes, that poses some risk. That is where I'm coming from.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm optimistic if they're constructed with the right material. The risk may not be that low. Obviously, if they're poorly constructed, it's a terrible risk. But it's a balance. If you put in 100 of them and one of them goes bad, that's not good. But here's a sort of simple argument that you need 3. It takes 3 points to define a plane. So if you want to, define the pressure field, the direction of flow in the injection zone, you'd need 3. I mean, reality is much more complicated than that, obviously.
Yeah, so don't you believe that we have to leave it at the discretion for the director or OCD to make this determination in discussion with the operator, considering the risk, the geology, other than more or less putting a strict number 4 into the rule?
Right. I mean, this is sort of saying the same thing again, is that I don't know if we agree that there needs to be a floor, but I worry that if you don't have a floor, something will happen in the future where someone gets away with 1 well or even argues for no wells into the injection zone.
But that would be on the operator to justify how they believe that, let's say, 4 wells or more wells, or less than 4 wells, will still be able to protect the USDW.
Right, so you want to open it up? I don't know what you want, but you could open this up so that if the operator could make an argument for 0 wells.
For any number of wells, that has to be negotiated with the director. And the director's objective is to protect the underground source of drinking water.
Right. I just want to close off the possibility of 0, 1, or 2 wells.
Okay. Yeah, the director has taken notice. Let's wrap up. Let's go to page CG 044. So that'll be the next page. Now, so that will be 10B. You're proposing a new language here. And you're saying that the owner or operator shall purchase a state-owned. So I'm just asking, does the state manufacture these stations? What is it like? Can you explain a little bit what you mean by that?
I don't think they're buying it from the state. They're purchasing it for the state.
So you're saying purchasing for the state, or it has to be? Can you clarify that paragraph B?
So the owner or operator will purchase a distributed acoustic network of seismic sensors. And the state will own the data.
And so are you aware that there are stations already in New Mexico that the state controls?
Yeah, I'm aware there's some. I don't know the details of it all. And the idea here is to increase the resolution at the site.
So definitely you start with what is available and then you fill in the gaps.
Right.
Okay.
And if you get lucky and there's a huge number already at your site, then good for you.
Okay. Professor Harvey, thanks so much for your time. I do not have any further questions for you. Thank you.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you, Commissioner Mpoma. Commissioner Shosky, do you have questions of Dr. Harvey?
Yes, I do. Hello, Dr. Harvey. Thanks for your time today.
Hi.
So there's been some talk about information in the public record and what should be shared. And as you've been reviewing these applications that you've said a lot of them you've reviewed have been redacted, correct?
That's true.
Have you noticed if a lot of these applications have some basic information missing, like the well location and maybe the injection zone, just kind of basics?
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to overstate that I've done some big statistical analysis of all the applications out there. But in my experience, yes, I've seen one from Illinois that had that redacted. Okay,
thank you. Yeah, I've looked at a few, and it seems like some of them have more information than others.
Right. So and that one's a real head scratcher. How can you redact the location of the site? Yeah.
Yeah, so for other wells besides Class 6 wells in New Mexico, like oil and gas or injection wells, during the application or the permitting process, that the information is shared to the public of the well type, location, the formation of injection or production, well construction details, et cetera. Do you think this should be available to the general public as part of the application period and public comment period?
Yeah, I do, because without that, they don't have the possibility of really assessing it. With it, it's still pretty difficult, but without it, it's not even possible.
Do you think it would be good to have clarity in the rule that that basic information should be available to the general public?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. And for people in the area of review, so they might have the most immediate impacts from this project, do you think there should be more information available to them to help them decide if they want to put in a protest or an appeal for a Class 6 project?
Yeah, and I don't know if I may, let me sort of put it from my perspective. If I were to learn that a giant bubble of buoyant gas, which is toxic if it comes to the surface, were injected under my house, I would want to know all about it. And so, you know, if I apply that thinking to the general public, which you should, yeah, it should all be available.
What other information do you think would be useful to provide to people in the area of review? Both like mineral and surface owners.
Information. So, yeah, I'm not quite sure how to answer that, but I would hope that all of the information required for the permit application were sufficient. I don't know. I could speculate maybe someone wants more specific information about exactly their property, but I don't know. I don't really know.
Do you think the area of, like a map of the area of review should be available to the general public?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Thank you. Do you think that should also be in the rule to clarify that that should be available to the public?
Yes, certainly.
Thank you. Let's see. Just looking through my notes. So in your research, do you have any estimation of how long it might take for a plume to be stabilized?
Well, it would be useful if we have any field data showing that a plume ever has been stabilized. And I'm unaware of that. And the sort of theoretical modeling of it, we're talking modeling, I think is very uncertain. I can go into more detail as to why I think it's uncertain. But actually, I forget exactly what your question was.
Just an estimate, if you knew of kind of how long it might take for a plume to stabilize. And I'm sure there's a lot of different aspects that go into that estimation, but just in anything you've read.
Yeah, there's no estimate that I'm aware of based on empirical data. I have no doubt that someone's run a model somewhere and shown the plume stabilized, but probably happens mostly where the plume actually has lateral structural confinement. You know, like a plume is trapped in an anticline and then becomes stable.
Okay, thank you.
But that's theoretical. I mean, that we don't have data on that.
Mm-hmm. Do you think if this was modeled, do you think that financial assurance should be in place until the plume has been stabilized?
Okay, I think financial assurance means assurance that the operator will pay damages. Is that what I understand? Or that the operator has the finances to maintain their monitoring? So I think both of those things should be true.
Okay, thank you. Let me see if I can go. I was using your presentation kind of for guiding for my questions, but let me go to your testimony so it's easier to point you in the right direction. 1 second. Well, I'll come back to that one. Let's see. Sorry for the delay. Just switching back and forth between things. 1 second. So on, let's see, on page CG 127.
Yeah.
In this, let's see, number 2, you talk about the suspected, well, this is in the rule, but the suspected faults and fractures that may transect the confining zone in an area of review. Do you think that all faults within the area of review should be included in this, not just ones that could transect the confining zone?
Yes. If a fault's activated, it causes a lot of geomechanical effects, or can.
Thank you.
And also, the faults can control the migration of the CO2 plume. And if that's not in your model will be wrong.
Okay, so on page CG 130, can you explain just the change you're suggesting in II with a little more detail? I believe this section is about when you need to complete an area of review and corrective action plan.
Yeah, it's sort of adding these thresholds explicitly.
Mm-hmm.
That, sort of trigger an automatic reevaluation of the area of review.
So I guess this is kind of related, but let's say a company wanted to drill through, let's say, the area of review where the plume is going to be or might be to get to a deeper oil and gas zone. Do you think that would be a case where an AOR should be reviewed and updated again?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Yes. probably for a couple reasons. One is presumably it's going to start pumping from below. I'm not quite sure what that will do geomechanically. This is a complicated one, right? You have injection above and presumably some lower confining layer because they're after hydrocarbons below it. And that I don't really want to say, what exactly the change to the stress state would be. But I think you certainly need to consider that carefully.
And kind of along those same lines, I know in your testimony, you talked about that monitoring wells should also be constructed using the same materials as a Class 6 well. Is that correct?
Yes.
Do you think if there's going to be a new well drilled through the injection zone, maybe, for looking for a deeper oil and gas reservoir, do you think those should be constructed to the same the same construction too?
Yeah, if you use conventional material, that well in the injection zone could be degraded and fail. And also because it's passing through the injection zone, everywhere all the way to the surface is also susceptible to degradation and failure. I think this is a point we made earlier, that you want to do the whole thing that way because it is plausible with any number of ways, seismic activity, other things that, a gap or something, outside the well, or something goes wrong with the well and buoyant CO2 plume starts to move upward along the well. And then if it dissolves the cement in the well or the steel, then that just provides a quick path to the surface or into the drinking water aquifer.
Okay, thanks. When I know you added a definition for intensive corrective action area, correct?
Yes.
So, and I don't really know if this would be in New Mexico specifically, but in this you only talk about brine, injecting into brine, and I'm wondering how you think this might change if there was injection into like basalt for sequestration.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. Basalt. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I have to think about that. Basalt has different kinds. Yeah, I can only speculate. I'm not sure how useful. Different kinds of fracture patterns than sedimentary rock. Geochemically, well, I don't know what we're comparing to, but basalt certainly, unlikely to have significant solid carbonate in it. Yeah, I don't know. I think you could think about that more carefully. But are there basalts in New Mexico? Or maybe I can look that up.
There are, but I don't.
Okay.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know if it would be feasible
Yes,
to inject into, but. I know there's been some discussion about looking at operation or historical injection projects within a 10-mile radius. And I guess, sorry if this is a repeat, but can you remind me of how you arrived at a 10-mile radius to look at those?
Well, it's explicitly different than, it's set as a quantity as opposed to the radius of the AOR. And that's intentional because the interactions could be very complicated. If there is a injection well somewhere, we don't really know where its injectate has gone. It could have spread towards the CO2 injection well, for example. So it's just meant to give a sort of reasonable a reasonable area where there could be some bad interaction.
And do you think that should this look at injection projects maybe or just within the injection zone or within different injection zones as well that might be in the same area?
Oh, well, I mean, all of the we're talking about class 6 injection zones?
Or like if there's a saltwater disposal well, maybe it's in the same area of review, but it's been injecting for 20 years before the
Yes.
class 6 well or something similar.
Yes, yeah, that's the idea. You want to consider these other changes to the subsurface from other injection wells.
Okay, thank you. And there's a lot of talk about older plugged wells, ensuring that there are not going to be pathways for carbon dioxide to leak. And I'm wondering if you, in your experience, or if you've read anything about maybe like active, let's say there's like an active oil and gas well potentially being a pathway to the surface, because it might not be constructed with, materials that are resistant to corrosion.
Yeah, it wouldn't be. I mean, if there's an active one within the area of review, clearly you've got to think about it. It also changes the pressures and the flow pathways.
And how do you think, there's, in the rule, they talk about corrective action for plugged wells. Do you have any, have you seen anything similar with wells that are active?
Oh, I haven't read all the regulations. I don't know if there's something that looks at that particular case. But it is alarming, right? If you're pumping oil and gas out and nearby you're injecting CO2, you can easily imagine it's going to pull the CO2 over to the well, and the well hasn't been designed to withstand CO2. Sounds like a bad idea.
Or even if it's an oil and gas well that's producing not from the injection zone, but the well still could be a potential pathway if it's going through the injection and confining zone. Do you believe it could still potentially be a pathway for CO2 to leak?
Yeah, because it's probably, it has, if it's pumping, it does reduce the pressures around it. So it creates gradients to flow towards it. So anything that gets through the caprock would likely be drawn towards that pumping well.
Okay, thanks. And I have a question about surface air monitoring. You said you have experience with eddy covalence towers, correct?
Yes.
So if a company was going to do air surface monitoring for a Class 6 project, what would that look like? Would that need to be an array of surface air monitors over an area, or?
Yeah. So if you have conventional, just CO2 detectors, you need a big array of those. They're inexpensive, right? But they just measure locally concentrations, and they don't necessarily even pick up a slow release of CO2. Eddy covariance tower has a large footprint depending on how high the tower is. So you could design this, depending on what the size of your area review is, to not have very many in some circumstances.
Okay, thank you.
And the different methods work differently in different topographies, things like that. So I don't think we specified anything. Well, I know we didn't, about, sort of the design of surface monitoring.
So you believe that air surface monitoring should be done, but the design can be left up to the discretion of the director?
Yes. And, I sort of returned to like, if there was a giant bubble of CO2 under my house, wouldn't we want something that indicates, indicates trouble?
So let's see, on your testimony on CG 174.
Okay.
And I noticed in here you say that you mentioned including an unauthorized zone, that the fluid has migrated into an unauthorized zone. And I was just wondering why you thought that was important to add in here.
Okay, we're looking at the bottom of the page.
Oh, yes, sorry.
Well, I think it just distinguishes the CO2 from a case where the CO2 is migrating into where you expect it to go in the injection formation.
So there's in the rule in general, there's a lot of places where the rule only really talks about endangerment to an USDW. Do you think it would also be good to have text in there saying, won't cause endangerment to USDW, or not allow fluid to migrate out of the unauthorized injection zone?
Yeah, this gets into the details of language, and I'm not even quite sure the definitions for everything. The unauthorized zone presumably is outside the AOR.
Or do you think the unauthorized zone could possibly be like outside of the authorized injection zone?
The authorized injection zone, what is that? Is that?
Or the permitted injection zone?
So I'm not quite sure. The permitted injection zone is what?
Where injection is allowed to occur.
Okay, which could be much larger than the AOR. Is that right?
I guess I'm thinking about your opinion, both maybe outside of the horizontal AOR, but also vertical. So I'd say like leaked into maybe the CO2 leaked into a oil and gas reservoir, geothermal reservoir above the formation it's injecting into. Do you think language? Do you think that'd be important to include?
I'm not quite sure the specifics, but it sounds like that is a case in which the CO2 plume is behaving very differently than what was predicted to construct the AOR. And so, yes, you should reevaluate things when that happens. And I think, I'm sure you should cease injection because you don't know what's going on. Somehow it moved through the caprock.
Okay, thank you.
I think in any case where you find CO2s move through the caprock, that's a serious problem, and you should stop injection.
Okay, thanks. And on page CG 34, down on the bottom in 3A2, where you discuss the number of wells to characterize an injection zone.
Yeah. So these are wells in the injection formation.
So I know there was some talk about areas where there are a lot of wells already from other activities, but I believe the USGS has some areas maybe that don't have as much drilling in them that could be potential. So do you think that the 3 wells is a good baseline for maybe areas that don't have as much information already?
Yeah, I think, the argument is that you don't want to have less than that. I think a reasonable person could argue that the floor should be higher than that. So it's a modest floor.
And do you think this is kind of a good example of where more clarity in the rule could be helpful rather than just having something in guidance or at the discretion of the director to help guide, operators who want to drill or want to permit a Class 6 well?
Yeah, I mean, that's the intent. The operator, wells are expensive and the operator is going to avoid putting in wells if they can.
Okay, thank you. I believe that's all my questions. Most of them got answered before. So thank you, Dr. Harvey.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chair Chang, do you have questions of Dr. Harvey?
I do not at this time. Thank you.
All right. Ms. O'Grady, is there any reason not to excuse Dr. Harvey?
No, there's no reason not to excuse him. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for your testimony, Dr. Harvey.
Okay, thank you very, actually kind of enjoyed it.
All right, let's talk about where we go from here. Tomorrow,
Could we take a brief recess for a moment?
Sure.
Restroom break and then, yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
3:20, is that okay? All right. minute break felt like an eternity. Let's see. So we're back after a break, and Ms. Gutierrez had expressed interest in offering her opening statement. Ms. Gutierrez, I think I see you on the platform there. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Hearing Officer Orth. Good afternoon, Chair Chang, Commissioners. For the record, my name is Ana Gutierrez with Womble Bond Dickinson, and I'm here on behalf of the New Mexico Oil and Gas Association. NMOGA does not have any technical witnesses in this particular rulemaking, but as a party, they did want to offer a statement for the record. And mindful that we're winding up hearing and I'm in the way of that, I will be very brief with my remarks. NMOGA represents more than 250 member companies responsible for approximately 95% of oil and gas activity in New Mexico. As reflected in our filings, NMOGA generally supports OCD's proposed rules, and that support is not just a formality. It's really grounded in the extensive technical and stakeholder process that produced this rulemaking package that we've heard so much about. And I just want to focus briefly on one issue that remains particularly important to the NMOGA membership, and that is the protection of the mineral estate. The Stewardship Act itself recognizes that where the dominant mineral estate is utilizing the surface for production, those formations, quote, shall not be interfered with. That issue directly relates to several of the questions Commissioner Chosky has raised, and NMOGA really appreciates the dialogue on some of those issues. As earlier testimony explained, a conceptual version of this rule package included what we've referred to as Reserve 4, which addressed unitization, correlative rights, and ownership issues related to both pore space and injected CO2. Those provisions were ultimately removed and are not before the Commission today. That said, and this is the important part, NMOGA does not view their absence as an insurmountable obstacle to the adoption of reasonable Class 6 rules. OCD has stated its intent to address mineral interest issues in a future rulemaking, and NMOGA welcomes that continued engagement. Adoption of workable Class 6 rules, it's a really important step, but it's just the first step in a much longer process. As OCD testified, after rule adoption, OCD has to prepare and submit a primacy application to EPA, and that just takes time. We've heard testimony regarding Colorado's Class 6 rules, and Colorado's experience really illustrates my point here. That rulemaking concluded in late 2024, yet EPA approval remains pending today, although it is expected really soon. That means it will be about 2 years from state rule adoption to final EPA primacy approval. NMOGA simply asks this commission to consider the fact that we still have time. We have time to work through all of the issues and questions that have been raised regarding unitization, correlative rights, and ownership issues. And adopting these technical Class 6 rules in that process does not just foreclose those conversations. Those conversations can, and they should proceed alongside the primacy process. Nor does the Commission's actions predetermine the outcome of that important work. NMOGA remains committed to that discussion, and we look forward to continuing to work with OCD and other stakeholders as those issues move into a future rulemaking in the near term. Thank you all for your time at this hearing. I know it's been quite the process. We very much appreciate your dedication. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gutierrez. My notes, Commissioner Chosky, show that Wild Earth Guardians made an opening statement immediately following the division's opening statement last Monday. So I believe that is statements from everybody. We have finished all technical witnesses. Tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, we'll invite public comment. That, in fact, will be the final public comment session for this hearing. So there'll be no public comment sessions on Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. Public comment session tomorrow will be supported by an interpreter to interpret in real time between Spanish and English. So let's talk about the post-hearing process next. Mr. Tremaine, do you have an estimate as to when would be a reasonable time to submit? And I'm going to start with you because we need your final proposal before then we set a subsequent deadline for closing arguments. For you to talk with the other parties who've offered adjustments and to weigh those adjustments and then decide what the division's final proposal will look like.
Thank you, Madam Hearing Officer. Yes, so although at this point on day 6, it may not seem like it, I actually think that we have, or may not feel like it in a moment. I think we have clarity on the various positions and recommended language, and we will be able to work with that relatively quickly. There will be some areas we provided testimony and rebuttal testimony on that may be updated in the division's final proposal. There are many areas that when you layer in stringency analysis and you layer in statutory authority analysis, there will be positions that we don't feel will benefit from any elongated discussion or process. And we expect to have clearly outlined positions with the final red line. So based on the understanding that we typically get transcripts within about a week after hearing, and that this one is kind of a mid-length hearing, I think that we would be proposing final red line and closing arguments in the first 2 weeks of September.
All right. So when then is a good time for the other parties to submit their closing argument and final proposal? I just wanted to draw the division out first and give the other parties a subsequent deadline. Would anyone else like to speak up here?
Thank you for the opportunity to weigh in. I think conservation groups would like 4 weeks after the final proposal from the division.
All right.
Or the transcript, whichever one is later.
All right. So if we assume that the division would have its final documents to Sheila and the rest of us by September 11th, that's the second Friday there in September. 4 weeks later would be 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold on, 1, 2, 3, October 9th. Mr. Pavlik, would you like to weigh in here?
Madam Hearing Officer, may I just clarify one question?
Yeah.
I don't want to cut off Mr. Pavlik, but in all prior rulemakings, the parties have submitted concurrent closing arguments. So what I just heard was a motion, response, reply type schedule. And I don't think that that is actually appropriate in this setting. So if what we have seen before where parties have different positions on final red lines, those are submitted along with the closings. So I just want to clarify what, you may not be there yet, but.
Yeah, so I wasn't really necessarily doing 3 steps there, motion, response, reply. It was more that a new baseline be submitted for the other parties to consider to put in their own. So let's say you adopt X number of adjustments offered by the conservation groups, thank you. They don't have to spend time on that then, right? They know that when they submit their own final proposal, the division has already accepted that. That's how it's going to give them a later deadline.
Or the commission, because there were commissioners who also offered new language here. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm not quite sure what the proposal is in front of us because so much has been muddied. And not necessarily in a bad way, but there's I think we need clarification on as to exactly what's in front of us at some point. But
this, and I have done it in other cases. You may or may not been in the surface water primacy hearing we did in June. I unfortunately, because I would never try to torment anyone, I got the same look from the lawyers representing the Surface Water Bureau when I asked them to go first, so that everyone else had a new baseline to work from.
Would that entail submission of OCD's final proposed red lines, or red lines and its entire closing argument?
I think the red line is what's most important. If you'd like to do your closing arguments when everyone else is doing their closing arguments, that's fine. It's the red line that I think people need to see before they're expected to submit anything at all.
Thank you for the clarification.
Okay. So are we back to September 11th and October 9th? Mr. Pavlik, do you have something to say?
Those dates sound good to us, and as does the idea of having an updated red line to work with and knowing what we'd be responding to. Really appreciate that. I think that would be very helpful. Thank you.
All right. Ms. Gutierrez?
Same for us. Those deadlines work. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Tucker?
Yeah, I was just going to chime in to echo that those dates and format work for Oxy.
Great.
Thank you.
Yes. I learn something new every month. Okay, so is there any, I'll put this on the transcript. I can put it in an order if you need. The division will file and serve its final red line by September 11th, and all parties' written closing arguments and whatever you would like to submit by way of a proposed statement of reasons, whatever fraction of a proposed statement of reasons you're interested in submitting, will be due from everyone on October 9th. Mr. Chair.
I understand that there might be a motion from one of our commissioners.
Yes, I was going to call on her just now. Commissioner Chosky.
Yes, thank you. So earlier in the hearing, I attempted to offer a motion that this process feels kind of rushed and there are parts of the rule that feel incomplete. It is imperative that we do a rulemaking properly, include all needed parts of a rule. So again, I suggest we pause this proceeding for 60 days and to see if we can do this rulemaking completely and address other concerning issues that were raised today and other times during this hearing. Therefore, I move to table this hearing for 60 days and re-adjourn at a later time to see where we stand.
Is there a second, at least for discussion purposes?
Oh, I second.
Okay. So motion is to suspend or table, I guess, or suspend for 60 days. Did I get that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. We're welcome to provide any further thoughts or arguments or recommendations as to why.
With a lot of the issues that were raised, including CO2 ownership after it's been injected, unitization, and mineral issues, it just seems like we might need more time to review those before reconvening for final arguments.
Okay. 60 days out from today would get us into, let's see,